And then COVID hit. And that's it.
Yeah.
And COVID, look it up, in the United States, where was the first place that COVID had an outbreak?
Right there in Kirkland, Washington, where you're at.
Right. 1 mile from my school. Lovely. So
Because how many staff members did you have at this point that you were supporting?
I have like 25 teachers. I've got 115 clients. It's March. I pulled tuition March 1st. I got paid March 1st. By March 15th, 16th, Governor Inslee shutting everything down for 2 weeks. Parents want their money back. I don't know how long this is going to last. Teachers want to get paid. I'm like, I can't give the parents their money back and pay the teachers, and I can't do this. Like, I'm crying. I'm on the end of the couch going, honey, we need to shut down. We need to shut down, and I'll open back up when this is over. He said, no. He said, if you close your doors, you will never open back up. And he was right.
All right. Hello, friends. Really excited today to share a story of one of our longtime owners that we've been working with since like 2016. So going on almost 7 years now. We've pretty much been working with her ever since she bought her center. And today I just kind of want to share our conversation, just kind of show people, you know, what it's like to buy a center, what it's like, you know, to own a center, operate, and just kind of share Linda's story with the world. I feel like a lot of childcare owners out there, they don't really get a chance or an opportunity to kind of share their stories. So it was really cool to get on a call today with Linda and kind of hear her story, hear about how she got started, you know, from working in childcare to then in, like, I think she said 2014, buying an actual center that was licensed for over 100 kids, to then owning and operating that center, to then COVID hitting, to then coming back from that. It's quite an amazing story. So hope you guys stay tuned and, you know, listen to the whole thing and hear what she's all about. And then also another thing is, if you're thinking about starting a center, or you currently have one, or need some help with enrollment, or your website, or your online presence, anything of that nature, you know, be sure to click the link below. You know, we're Childcare Web Design. You know, we help out owners with their enrollment. We help them out with their website. We help them out with their online forms. Everything childcare related. So, well, let's get right into this.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Linda Gamaroth, and I live in Seattle, Washington. I got started in the field with childcare. That wasn't my goal, or wasn't what I thought of when I graduated from college. It just kind of happened naturally as I started raising my 4 children, and they were enrolled in a Montessori program. And I really liked the Montessori program. So I went to Gonzaga. I have my master's in psychology, and I've always been like a social worker, but I always thought I was a good parent, but I really felt that the Montessori way really helped me for my parenting. It made me focus on letting the children do what they can for themselves and being there to help them. So I was a stay-at-home mom, and I would drop the children off at the, you know, Montessori, and I really enjoyed it. And it seemed that they'd always forget something, or somebody needed help, and I would stay and kind of help out. And I really liked the environment. And so one day the owner and I talked, and she was getting older, and she saw how much I was like just volunteering and being at the school. And I approached her, and she said, well, why don't you buy the school? And it was a small school. It was in a house. There were 2 classrooms that were full-time, and then 1 classroom was a half day. And I said, okay. So she said, well, you should go back and get your Montessori degree, or a certificate. It's just a certificate. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So I went back to school, and my husband at the time was in corporate, and he's good with numbers. So we wanted to see if the business was viable, and it makes sense. I mean, it's one thing to enjoy childcare, enjoy Montessori, but if you're going to open a school and you're going to do the school, it's got to be profitable, right? You got to make money at the end of the day. You need a paycheck, and you have bills to pay. Yeah. So he looked at her books. She had to open her books up, all of her accounting and everything, and we realized that it was profitable. So we continued down the road, And that deal kind of went sideways.
Yeah,
But
how
it,
large was this center? Like, how many? Like, also, was this your first time introduced to Montessori? And then, how like large was this location that you guys were in?
yeah, so I kind of alluded to that. This was my first Montessori, and then I went back to school, and
Mhm.
that it was just 2 classrooms. So each classroom had 15 kids,
Okay,
15
so 30
children.
kids.
And then she had a half day program.
Okay.
And at that time, licensing, so you have to have a licensing, which I didn't know any of all this, right?
Mhm.
I just thought, oh, I'd buy the school, right? So as I'm down this road of buying the school, getting my Montessori degree, realize that I have to get a license to do childcare. Whether
Yeah.
you do it in your home or you do it in a center, you need a license for it. So they have an orientation class that you have to go to. It's like an all-day orientation class with the state. So every state's different. So you have to find out your state. My state, we're in Washington State, so we have Washington codes. They call them WAC codes, and there's specific codes for childcare. There's ones for in-home, and there's one for center. So there it can be 2 different things. So if you have an in-home and you want to jump to more of a center, you still have to take that orientation class again. So took the orientation class, wasn't difficult. You know, they just kind of go over kind of the basics.
Yeah.
And of course, she was
Do you think school was like necessary at all, like before like you were owning the center at all, or you just needed it for that certification?
Say that again.
Like, do you think school actually helped you out, like when it came to owning a center, operating it in like the Montessori ways and stuff like that, or do you think that was not useful? It's just for the certification to kind of prove that?
Yeah, it's just like a certification class. It's pretty basic because
Okay.
it's kind of like you also have to have. Well, we want to diverse too much, but you have to have like a food handler's
Mhm.
permit, right? So it's a class you have to take online, whatever. I mean, and it's pretty basic. Like, you know, do you eat raw meat? You know, you're like, oh, no, you know, and this is the same kind of thing. It's like, you know, you have to have, you know, fingerprint background check, and you know, they talk about different safety. Really, it's the safety issues, you know. So, anyways, she had a small Montessori in a home,
Mhm.
and it was the house was converted to school. All the whole nobody lived in the home, and so it was the backyard, and it was nice location. But anyways, that deal went sideways.
Mhm.
So we passed on that, but it got me the idea, and we saw the viability of it.
Yeah.
And then after that, we started looking for schools that were already in existence to buy.
Yeah. And when you think the viability, you mean like you guys once you saw the books, you guys were intrigued after that, like on top of the fact that you were into Montessori.
Right, but I don't want to say that it's all about the money.
Yeah.
But they make good money. I mean, you know, but we're not in this to, you know, I mean, you have to have a certain heart for children and a love for learning.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the cherry on top is this business makes good money.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get into it for that. But my husband, you know, made sure that that was going to be viable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't want to talk all about the money and like, ooh, it's all about the money, you know, because it is good. So then you're right. So I don't think we ever thought about opening up our own from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? It takes a lot of capital. It takes a lot of money up front because you've got to find a place. Then you got to pay, get in a lease and a landlord, and you have to rent that unless you buy the building, and that's expensive. So a lot of people start in their homes, right? Because you're already there, you're already in your home. You know, it can be a write-off, whatever, but that's pretty small.
Yeah.
And the margins aren't there. What happens is we realized in the industry now that I've been in it 7 years, we realized if you don't have more than 50, 75 clients, somewhere around there, that's the push that makes it profitable.
Mm-hmm.
You're small, you're already doing it anyways. You already have the software, you already have the building, you already have the codes, you have some staff. Like you already have this.
You have all the issues.
The operations.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you have 10 children or 50 children, it's the same cost for running the operation. So you might as well have 50, right? So then that got you into buying a center. So there are centers out there. They're for sale. Some own their buildings, some do not. So we looked and looked, and we finally found one that was for sale. And then actually it was on Craigslist, believe it or not. So amazing where you can find things now,
Yeah.
whether it's on Snapchat or, TikTok or whatever, if you just keep looking, and you can find a broker. But it was nice because this was just a lady and she was selling her center. And then I was interested in buying it.
Yeah.
So I
when it
went.
came to financing for that, like, did you guys, were you pulling out loans for that? Were you put your house up, or how did that work?
Right. Okay. So you're right. So once we decide we want to buy it and she comes up with the price, then yes, we have to fund that. So we used our home, my home that I had in Bellevue. We put a loan on the home. So we pulled the money from the house, or told the bank, if I don't make good on this loan, then you can have my house, basically. And it started.
Yeah.
So, bought the school.
And what was the condition of the school, I guess, like when you guys bought it? Like, was it a thriving business, or is it making money, hand over foot?
Okay.
And what was that like?
Okay. So again, I went from this really small 2 classrooms to this is 9 classrooms with infants.
And you never owned a business, operated a business, or anything. You didn't even.
Exactly. So she was there and helping me. She had other buyers. She had other offers and stuff like that. But she ended up going with me because she liked the fact that I was like her. It wasn't a corporation. It wasn't Kindering or, Bright Horizons or these big corporations that come in. She wanted that mom, that feeling.
Yeah.
The community. So she was there with me for about 2 weeks, and kind of a month prior to that, I was starting to learn about the program. So
and was all the learning that you were doing on site, or after school? Were you watching videos? Were you on Facebook, or what was that like?
No. Facebook wasn't a big thing 7 years ago. This was 7, 8 years ago. So no, there wasn't a lot of that. I was just there all the time. The minute the doors opened to the minute they closed, I was there, and I was trying to absorb as much as I could because I knew she was going to leave.
Yeah.
So she took off, and she took the office person with her and a teacher, and then she left everybody else. So that was good. So I already had staff. I had about 65 clients. I was licensed. It was licensed for 133. I had never done the infant, before. I was more Montessori, which is 3, 4s, and 5s.
Yeah.
So they were not Montessori. They were Reggio. But Reggio is an Italian kind of play-based, which it kind of piggybacks onto Montessori. So it wasn't hard. And because we're in Kirkland, it's a very affluent area and well-educated. Many of the parents knew about Montessori. So with that foundation, I had the curriculum, my foundation was Montessori.
Yeah.
And then I tried to infuse that into the classrooms. However, the teachers weren't Montessori trained or based.
Yeah.
Right.
And you had to kind of train them up on that, or how did that work?
Well, I tried, but it was hard to run the company. It's hard to run the day-to-day operations. And I mean, you just got thrown into the deep end, and tried to train teachers. And I was all by myself. I mean, I was it.
Yeah.
It was me, myself, and I. I took a teacher out of the classroom, and she came in to help me in the office. That didn't work so well, but that's another whole story. So I thought I could do that. I thought I could run the company and infuse the Montessori, but I found it very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a classroom at the school that was just a storage room, and it was a rather large storage area. So my husband and I decided we would convert that to a classroom. And then the classroom that moved in there, I was going to do another classroom with Montessori. So fixed up that classroom on the weekends, him and I and my children, we did it all. We got the contractors, we put the flooring in, we got the sinks, the toilets, we did all that, right? To cut costs, right? Because every dime we save goes in our pockets, right? Into the teacher's salary, into the school. So got that classroom done, moved the toddlers in there. Then the toddler room, I decided to make it a Montessori. So I bought all the Montessori materials, the pink tower, the brown stairs. I mean, it's expensive, and, but it should last a lifetime. It should last 45 years. I mean, the Montessori materials are made from wood. They're very sturdy. They're beautiful materials.
As long as you don't lose them.
What?
As long as you don't lose them.
As long as you don't lose them and the kids don't throw it around the classroom. But they shouldn't, because this Montessori way is to take care of the environment. So then I put an ad in the paper to find a Montessori teacher. And I found Carmel, this amazing young gal, really down to earth, super easygoing, great with the children, and loved Montessori. So I put her in this classroom, and it's got all the Montessori stuff. She has no children, right? She doesn't, right? Because this is a brand new classroom. So all the teachers from these other classrooms that have older children that they're having all these problems with decide that they want to give her all the problem children. So she says, bring it on. And I'm like, yep, I'm here to help you. And we started out small. She can have 10 by herself. If she gets an assistant, then she can have 20. So I just started her out by herself, and she had like 6 of like ones that other teachers were like, I can't do this, whatever. And the other teachers would walk by the classroom, and these children were like engaged. They weren't having behavior problems. They were like, what is she doing? Like, how is she doing this? Like, what's the magic? And I'm like, that's what I needed. I needed them to see Montessori in action. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't go in a classroom because I needed to run the school.
Yeah.
And I needed to do all the tours, and I was doing tours every day, and trying to get the enrollment, right? Because we were only 65.
Yeah.
And I was, running tours. We were doing flyers. We were trying to promote it as best we could, trying to do the Yelp reviews were a big one. Get out there, get in the community, right? So I did affairs. I did they had like preschool fairs. I would try to do that. So I can't be in a classroom. So this is great that I hired Carmel. And the nice thing about her is she was good. Like, she was taught good quality, not strict Montessori, but very down to earth, really good with the kids.
Yeah.
So children. So pretty soon I got her an assistant, and pretty soon she had 20, and there it was. And then I just did it to the next classroom. The next teacher would be like, hey, I like that Montessori. Can I go and get trained? I'm like, yes, go get trained. And I paid for the training. And then I would buy all the Montessori materials for her classroom. And then I did it for another classroom. And then we had in-service trainings where I'd bring somebody in to talk about Montessori. And I tried to teach the teachers, we're not going to say good job. We're going to, say what they're doing. What are they doing? Because good job is a reflection, and we're not going to call them kids. Kids are baby goats. We're going to call them children. And we're going to call it childcare. We're not going to call it daycare. We don't take care of the day. We take care of children. We have to elevate ourselves. In order to get the tuition, and you guys get your hourly pay is going to go up. This is a really important job. Our society now, they're slowly learning that preschool and kindergarten, the sooner you can get your child into a program,
the better
learning
off
program,
they'll be later on in life.
Yeah, they will graduate from college. They have stats now. People that graduate from college, they're like, hey, you graduated from college. Did you go to preschool? And they're like, yes. Or, oh, I dropped out. Oh, did you go to preschool? No, my mom homeschooled me until I was 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So they do now, they're doing all the statistics. And Biden right now, they're getting a lot of funding for this preschool, this 3 years old. They want them, they want like 2, 3. They want them in these, and they're learning how to communicate, get along, and interact, and their vocabulary is much higher because they have to communicate and they have to talk.
I think that's the biggest benefit right there is actually
if they're at home with you, they're not as much talking and communicating.
And I think that's the biggest thing is because when these kids, when they get into those, first grade, kindergarten and stuff like that, they have to interact with other children, like a part of their day-to-day life. And as you grow up in life, you have to interact with people, you need to make friends, and that's really where you get that social intelligence from. And when you start that out at a young age, where they're in a classroom with 10, 20 kids already, before they've even gone to kindergarten, they're already interacting with teachers, they're already interacting with other students. that's really where they develop those skills before, they're moving on later on in life. And it's
Right. And they
so
talk
important.
about those. They're not talking about those skills. Those are called executive functioning skills.
Mhm.
So the other thing is they have a schedule. They have to get up. They have to get dressed. They have to get the shoes on. They have to get out the door. They have to, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you're right. It's that executive functioning that I have to schedule my day. I have to plan my day. Tomorrow I have school. I'm going to put out my outfit, or my mom's going to put out my outfit, or whatever. I got to get to bed because I got to wake up,
Yeah.
So rather than this, yeah. So it's really, I think our society is now learning more about how important it is.
Yeah. No, and also, so like, I feel like we're kind of getting a little bit sidetracked here, but I kind of want to go back to those first like few months of you owning and operating the center. Like, could you like walk us through that? Like, I'm sure that was super. I mean, like, you just put your house on the line. You're kind of all in on this now. Can you
Yeah.
just walk us through
So
like what that was
you're
like?
right.
Like biggest challenges, biggest successes. Like, what
Right.
did you do?
So the gal that owned the school, she made the announcement to the staff that I was going to take over the school and that she was going to take a couple teachers with her, but everybody else was going to stay.
Mhm.
So one of the things that kind of came up for me with staffing was obviously I'm with Montessori and I run the school a little bit different, right?
Mhm.
So she wasn't paying them. Like they would probably come to her and ask for a raise and she'd be like, oh yeah, next week. Cause she knew she was going to sell the school next week to me.
Yeah.
So of course, in this transition, the, staff would come to me and want a raise. So I kind of looked at their performance, and basically the performance that I kind of looked at was their W-2s. And you could tell how much people work and how much money they brought in from their W-2s. And I had to learn all that too, and payroll and all that. But my husband kind of did all that. He did all the payroll and things like that. So I would just put them on a performance review. And I said, well, right now we only have 65 clients. I'm going to do some tours and I need to get the enrollment up.
Yeah.
And then once we get that in your classroom full, then let's talk about getting a pay raise.
So was that like their performance? Like you kind of gave that expectation of like, hey, like currently at 65, we need to get this up to this number. You have 10 kids in your classroom. I need you at 15. Then we can talk about getting a raise. This is kind of what you laid out for them. And then they knew. And now they were like, now that they had that expectation, they kind of knew what to strive for.
Right. And then also brought them on board for my tours, right?
Because you guys were aligned now.
Yes. So when I walk in and I'm like, okay, our dress code, we've got to, step it up a notch because I'm having people come in and, you got to dress nicely and, we're presenting this product. So they knew their hourly rate was going to be tied to all this. I did tours 24/7.
Yeah.
All the time. If
And
somebody
actually,
wanted
that was one thing I was gonna say. I
like,
know that you've done a really good job on tours. So would you mind like sharing that, like how? Because like you went from 65 to 130 in what under? How long did that take you to get to your guys'
It took
capacity?
me 3 months.
3 months. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. So how did you do that?
Okay. Available 24 hours. My cell phone, on my email. Any email I got, any phone call I got. Yes. What time would you like to have a tour? Oh, tomorrow at 10? Yes. I'm a yes girl. Yes. Come on in. Yes. Yes. 6 o'clock at night. Yes. Can I come in this weekend? Yes. Can I see my husband's away? I really like the school, but I want him to see it. Can he come in on Sunday? Yes. Can I come on Christmas Day? Yes. I mean, I'm a yes girl, right? So just whatever they wanted.
You gotta fill those classrooms, like whatever happens, whatever gets.
Yep. That's 80-hour week. That's 120-hour week.
And it was later on where you were able, because once you got that capacity, then you were able to be like, okay, I only want full-time people. I only want parents who are going to pay me this much.
Yeah.
You can do that later.
You can be more picky.
Yes, but in the beginning, you got to fill those classes. You got to get profitable. You got to make it.
Okay, so now we got a little bit of a problem because I'm doing tours like left and right. Nap time, 6 a.m. in the morning. 3 o'clock, and the teachers are like, okay, Linda, it's really disruptive because you come in and this is, obviously before COVID. So we would do it in person and I would make sure that they brought the child with them. And with my psych degree, it's really important that you interview the children. Like you're not formally doing it, but you're informally looking at the mom, child, grandma, whatever they bring, and you're in seeing this interaction going on the minute they walk in the door. And then you go into the classroom. I would walk into the classroom with them.
And you're interrupting everything when you're doing that.
And interrupting everything.
Yeah.
And I would see how this child does. Now, let's say this child at the door starts screaming and I don't want to go, and he's hiding behind mom, or grandma's holding the child the whole time. I'm like, are we going to put the child down so they can walk? I think they can walk. I need to see the interaction, right? Are they clingy? Are they infusing in the classroom? Are they, if the mother asks the child to do something, does that child throw a tantrum? And you're checking out the personality of this child.
And the nice thing about this too is then you can set the expectation for these parents. Because if you figure out the child's really clingy or they get really upset when they leave the parents, you can tell them, hey, this is gonna be a little bit of a transition process. Your child is currently very into your mother, into your grandma. They're very clingy. They're very attached to them. This is going to be a little bit of a transition versus them coming back 2 weeks later. Hey, my child hates the school. They don't even want to go here. Yada yada yada. But now you already know that going into this.
Yeah. So what normally I just let it happen. Just don't. And that's a big thing with Montessori too. In our philosophy is observation. We're observing. You don't change anything. You don't tweak anything. You don't try to change the child. You don't try to change the mom. You don't try to change the situation. You're actually just exposing them to this environment and seeing what they do, right? And you're observing and you're taking notes, mental notes, right? So the teachers were like, Linda, I can. You're coming into the classroom and it's disruptive and I'm not ready and somebody just had a poopy and somebody's crying and somebody just got bit. And they're like, we need to control this a little bit. And I agree. I mean, they were like, and I don't want to dress up every day and wear makeup and have all, whatever. And I agreed with them. So we decided once my enrollment got up, like you said, then I toned it down and I did Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
From 10 to about 11:30. Because in the morning, we're all getting ready and settled and breakfast and everything. And 10 o'clock is good. It's a good time. And then kind of right before lunch. So, and because after that they're taking naps, and then in the afternoon not as much goes on because they wake up from naps, they have their snack, they maybe have a short circle, but then they go outside, and then pretty soon the parents are picking up. So you really have to do it in the morning, and the children are best in the morning, and so are and then I would tell the teacher, hey, tomorrow I have a 2 o'clock. I have a 2-year-old at 10 o'clock coming into your classroom, So then they would be prepared and they would have circle time or whatever. So after the tour, kind of talk about the tour. Other thing, when you do have a tour, part of what you're doing is you're educating, like you said, you're educating the parents on childcare. What is the industry like?
Yeah.
Not just your school, but all schools. What's the difference between in-home and what's the difference between a center?
Yeah.
How are we different than other centers? And what should you be looking for? Now, some people come with a Google,
the question sheet ready to go.
Like all the Google questions, which is like, okay, that doesn't, but I just start talking, and they do not know the questions to ask. And I've done a lot of tours, right? Yeah. In the beginning, I watched the old owner do the tour. Right. I shadowed her. Right. And so that kind of got me started. But then I realized Montessori was one big key. And we have a food program, which is another big key. A lot of places didn't provide the food.
Yeah.
But also, too, part of it is educating the parents. All my staff have their food handlers. All of them have CPR first aid. All of them have been fingerprinted and background checked.
Yes.
And they're like, wow, what? I'm like, yeah, your nanny or your babysitter, there's no reason why she can't have a background check and fingerprinted.
Yeah. And
they're like, well, wow, I never thought of that, So a lot of this is I would just start talking and then they were like, oh, that's a really good point. I should ask that question or,
Yeah. And you're setting yourself up as the expert. You are the person who has all this knowledge by you giving out all this free information to them. And they're
exactly. And I'm more of a talker and I'm very transparent. Whereas other people maybe are quiet during the tours and then they wait for the parents to ask a question. Whereas me, I'm I'm like talking and answering the questions before they even ask them.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm also maybe enlightening them to how this industry works. And also too, I'm like, have you ever done any other tours? Have you toured other schools? And they're like, yes, this is my 15th tour. Well, then they're going to know some stuff. But if this is their first tour, this is their first child, this is their first time in childcare, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So one of the things also too, in my infant room, I don't have cribs, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And part of it was economics. The room was too small for cribs. So the old owner, kind of sugarcoated it. And we're like, oh yeah, we don't have cribs because they're cages. And the children are actually sleep on a mat on the floor, and that prepares them for the other classroom. And they're in control because when they wake up, they can just roll off the mat and join the environment. They don't have to wait for me to pick them up out of the crib. So now I'm like,
you're taking something that's a negative and now you're spinning it off as a positive.
Yeah. So the paradigm is the cribs are bad. So now when they go to other centers and they see these cribs, they're like, wait a second, So the other thing that they had at the center, they had swings, the swings, and they had like bouncy things and stuff like that. But the WAC code said they could only be in the swing or the bouncy thing for like 10 minutes or a day, like 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Not like in an hour. And I did notice the staff were using them as apparatuses to stick the kid in so they didn't have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like that. So I kept on saying, hey, that child's been in that swing and it's asleep. You need to get him out and put him on the mat. And, oh, that child's been in that bouncy for too long, And I was managing all that.
Yeah.
So I was going in there and not yelling at the staff, but, not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because there was windows. We have a hallway and there's windows. So I'd walk by and I'd see. And so I'd walk in, hey, that child is asleep. Let's pull him out, And they didn't like that. And I didn't like it,
Yeah.
So what did I do? Got rid of them. Just take them out. No longer they're not in there. There's no swing in there. There's no bouncy. There's no that. So guess what? End of that problem.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a rocking chair in there. But I noticed when I walked by, there was a teacher and she'd be in the rocking chair. She'd have one baby and she'd be feeding him. And the other teacher is kind of managing the whole classroom. And there's children coming up to her in the rocking chair, wanting attention. And I thought, why? She doesn't need to be in the rocking chair. She could be on the floor. Get rid of the rocking chair. Now she's on the floor feeding. And now she can play and look, and they're all in eye contact. And all the infants are on the floor. So where should I be? On the floor.
Yeah.
So this is one of the tours. That's what I would talk about in the tour. I would say, so you've done tours at other schools. Okay, yeah, come on, let's show you the infant room. What do you notice about the infant room? And they'd be like, I don't know. What do we notice? They're like, ooh, challenge. And then say, wait, there's no cribs. I said, that's right. There's no cribs. And then I would go into my spiel. And then I'd say, what else do you notice? What did you notice at the other centers? Do they have swings? Do they have bouncies? Do they have and they'd be like, yeah. What do you guys, what do you put them in? I'm like, we don't. We play with them. We're on the floor. We're doing yoga every day, strengthening their necks, pushing up, downward dog, sitting up, strengthening those muscles because that's what they need to walk.
Yeah.
And you're educating them the whole time. This is, they're like, oh my gosh, that's great. This is a better environment,
Yeah, that's quite amazing. So again, like in those first 3 months, again, like by shadowing her in the tours and then just developing your own process and that, you were able to get the center very full very quickly. And I'm guessing your next problem after that was probably hiring, or what was kind of the next thing that like became an issue once you started.
So the other thing is that in the tours, in the other sometimes I would do the tours on the weekends because the teachers were like, I can't.
Yeah.
So I would do them on the weekends, and then I would have like a couple people, like 3 or 4 people come at one time, which is actually really nice and beneficial too, because a parent can ask a question that maybe another parent wouldn't have asked.
Yeah.
And also too, I can also go into the classroom and I can do a Montessori kind of lesson with these
the children.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, with the children. So one of the things is they call them nesting like things that like this bowl fits in this bowl.
Yeah, like the Russian dolls, I guess.
Yeah, it can only go one way. They all fit together one way, but you have to stack them in order for them to all fit into one bowl. They have to stack them a certain way. And there are certain colors and whatever. So I would sit and the child would be very interested in the materials. And I said, I'm going to give you a lesson. It's my turn, and then you can have a turn. And then I would show how it's stacked in, and then I would take them apart and then have the child do it. Now, I told the parents, this is awesome because I don't have to correct the child. The material is going to correct the child because it won't fit. Everything won't fit if he doesn't do it right. I don't have to say, no, that's wrong. You didn't do it right. The material is going to say it for him.
And the child
He wants it all to fit. He wants it to be pretty, like I had it all fit in the thing. And now he can't get it to fit. So now he's getting frustrated. And he's like, I can't get it to fit. And then he's looking at me like, hello, like, how'd you do that? And I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm right here. You want me to show you again? And he'd be like, yeah, show me again. So then I would show it and then give it back to him. And sure enough, he'd try it again. Didn't work. He'd look at me like, what am I doing? What am I missing? So then I would show it again. And I tried to isolate the thing that he was making the mistake at.
Mm-hmm.
Really make a point out of it. Like really say, look, see, it doesn't fit. And maybe I would make a mistake and be like, see, God, it doesn't fit. This is frustrating. Well, let me try another one. And then it fit.
Yeah.
So give it back to him. So all the parents are watching this. And they're like, wait a second. We have that same material at our house and we never use it like that. Like that's genius. I'm like, because half the parents, they buy these toys and they buy all this stuff, but they're not using it properly.
Yeah.
So there's all that. What was the question when we were, so staffing. So yes, I
was just kind of curious, like your next step after like getting full, like now you're kind of, a little bit into this, you're kind of getting, into the suit of being an owner of this 130 person childcare center. And I mean, like, I guess what was like your next step after, like, because I'm sure like that initial part of the enrollment was just kind of like your big push, and then now you kind of have other things to obviously worry about.
So it is nerve wracking because you're in charge of all these children's lives. I mean, they're not replaceable, and
you're not building pencils in a factory.
And you can't be in every classroom, so you have to trust your staff that they are watching and safety. Right. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to some safety, things like that. So yeah, if there's a viable safety, something happens bad, right? That person's fired on the spot. Mm-hmm. And then you have to call your licensor and tell your licensor what happened. It's always fun. And then, the licensor will come out and then they inspect or they say what you do and you have a write-up and you say, I let the person go, blah, blah, blah. So, and we went through some stuff. In my 7 years, out of the 7 years, I think right now I just have 3 that have been there the 7 years out of the ones I started. Now, looking back, I probably should have just let all the staff go and rehired. I should have probably just interviewed everybody and then either let go or rehire.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to do that. And that's the other thing that made me viable is that the day that I took over the school, I had clients and I had teachers. And so I had income coming in. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you start from scratch, it's going to take a while because you got to get a license and you got to have the fire marshal come through and you got to have all these people inspect the building and then you have licensing. And it takes a while, just like when you open up a restaurant.
Yeah.
And
all that time you're losing money.
Money's coming in, and no money's coming in.
And you're losing money. It's not even like you're not making money. You're losing money. You're paying the rent. You're paying the water bills. You're paying the licensure. You're getting stuff fixed.
If I would say losing, it's an investment.
Yeah.
You're never going to lose it. You're going to get it back.
Yeah.
But it's not instantaneous. It's going to take 3, 4, 5 months. So whereas me, I turned around in like 2 months. We were making money.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we were making $2, but I mean, we were cutting. We were breaking even and making it. And I think also too, the teachers also saw the tuition and they were like, wow, this is, and I charge by the month. So then they would see the tuition and then they would see what they were getting paid. And sometimes those didn't line up. So it was hard. I had to educate them too on Like it's not, I have rent and I have heat bill, I have a light bill, and I have, I have to pay the city, and you have to pay Department of Licensing per child. They everybody gets a little bit of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very profitable business. And so once I found the right person, Jana, she was in the classroom, and I could tell she was a go-getter, and she owned her own company and at one time. And she was married to this guy who had a construction company,
mm-hmm.
and they got a divorce. And she was a single mom. So she was a hard worker and very loyal and very honest.
Yeah.
And so I brought her into the office, and she came from another childcare center, and she brought other workers with her.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps too. When you hire somebody and they work at a center, and then they come to work for you, and they realize, oh wow, this is really great, and then they start to recruit people too.
Yeah. And I guess, so not only, I guess, like, so did you work on building that environment, like, with your teachers, like, where, like, they wanted to work there and stuff like that, or how is that?
I mean, you definitely have relationship with these, with the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I bought the school in 2014, so 14, 15, 16, and we were humming, we were
mm-hmm.
going, it was smooth. I mean, you have, some issues, but we were making good money, and we realized this is pretty profitable. So let's go buy another school.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided we were going to go look for another one. So I started looking. I realized that I could be a director at my school, and at another school, I had to do 20 hours at one school and 20 hours at the other school. That I could be the director of both schools.
Mm-hmm.
So we started looking. We put an offer in on one, but it didn't go through. We kind of wanted our own building. My building that I'm in now, I rent.
Mm-hmm.
And I had enough money now, capital, I could probably do my own building. So, and we wanted something that had high numbers, like, 89 clients, 100 clients, 75. So, right. We looked and looked and looked. We made a couple offers, and then the economy kind of was funny. And then COVID hit. And that's it.
Yeah.
And COVID, look it up, in the United States, where was the first place that COVID had an outbreak?
Right there in Kirkland, Washington, where you're at.
Right. 1 mile from my school. Lovely. So that, everything came to a halt.
And it was one of, also, I think, just to add to that, it was one of the largest, I think, deaths also, because the outbreak started in elderly homes. So I think it was like 8 or 16 people died right away, and that entire area was scared because of that. Like, there's this super deadly virus that just wiped out like 50% of this elderly home.
Right. And also, too, the workers at this elderly home, which was a mile from my school,
mm-hmm.
and guess what? We had a mile from both that center, and my school was a Fred Meyer's.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go on break, you go to Fred Meyer's to get your sandwich and your lunch and your whatever. So all the workers from there were, we're all commingling at Fred Meyer's. It's like a cesspool. Governor Inslee closes the economy. They closes everything for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody stay home, stay safe.
Yeah.
Shut it down. I'm like, what?
Yeah, because how many staff members did you have at this point that you were supporting?
I have like 25 teachers. I've got 115 clients. It's March. I pulled tuition March 1st. I got paid March 1st. By March 15th, 16th, Governor Inslee shutting everything down for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Parents want their money back. I don't know how long this is going to last. Teachers want to get paid. I'm like, I can't give the parents their money back and pay the teachers, and I can't do this. Like, I'm crying. I'm on the edge of the couch going, honey, we need to shut down. We need to shut down, and I'll open back up when this is over.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no. He said, if you close your doors, you will never open back up. And he was right. So we just shrunk the school. I went from 115 to 34 clients.
Wow. And
those 34 clients needed childcare. They're doctors, nurses, UPS drivers, attorneys. I mean, I had one of the head of the health department attorney. His child went to my school. So I didn't know how long this was going to last. None of us did.
Yeah.
I told the parents I can't give the tuition back because I have to pay the staff, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So they understood that for March. But now April comes and they don't have to go to work. They can work from home. Everybody's working from home. So I don't need childcare. My child's just going to stay home, Linda. I said, I know, but you need, okay, if you want me to be here when this is over, I need at least half tuition, to hold your spot is what I usually do. When somebody goes on vacation, they're like, I'm going to be gone for a month in India. You know, I'm like, okay, once a year, I'll give you half tuition to hold your spot. So when you come back, your child will have that spot in the same class and the same teacher. So I said, I'm going to charge half for April tuition. Half. Okay. So then May comes, and then COVID's still here, and people are still working from home, and we don't know how long this is going to last. So I said, I'll do the half of the half. So like half of the half, and teachers left, teachers quit, teachers were scared they were going to get sick, they didn't want to work in the environment, they wanted to stay home. Everybody was like freaked out.
Did that save you from having to let people go because people were quitting, or did you have to let people go anyways?
No, I never let anybody go.
Okay.
People quit.
Okay.
Because I was open. And I'm like, I'm open, come to work. And they were like, no. And we didn't have the vaccine. So we were wearing the masks and we were hand sanitizing everything and cleaning and bleaching it, every night and all, doing all that. No hand sanitizer. No more. They all ran out. And the masks, we were running out. I remember President Biden was coming into town on an airplane. And I'm like, I really don't need him. I need hand sanitizer. So in March, right when this broke out, I went to Arkansas to go visit my son. And I got on that plane and I had gloves, I had a mask, I had hand sanitizer. I was all protected. I landed in Houston and people were looking at me like I was psychotic. I was like, I cannot believe everybody was just walking around, no mask, no. I mean, and here we are in Washington State. We're in like DEFCON 5. Thinking, oh my God. I mean, we have no hand sanitizer. We have no toilet paper.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just crazy. And here in Houston, everybody's just, and I get to Arkansas and I go to get my rental car and the lady says, can I see your ID? I pull out my ID and I back up. And she's like, I need to see it. I said, I'm from Kirkland, Washington. You do not want to touch my ID. Like, we have COVID. She was like, oh my God. Get to University of Arkansas. It's Mother's Day weekend. No mask. Everybody's partying. We have an outdoor baseball game. I went with Grant to Walmart. I bought every sanitizer, toilet paper. I loaded the cart. He's like, Mom, what are you doing? I said, COVID is going to hit and you're going to have no Clorox wipes. You're going to have no sanitizer. In fact, people were starting to, the shelves were low. So I go to this Rite Aid. I walk in and there's these huge sanitizers that are like a gallon. I get all 8 of them. Grant, leave one for somebody else. I'm like, no, I'm taking these back to Washington. And I literally put them in my carry-on and I checked my carry-on in. We got back here, had that, still no hand sanitizer. I had to go to a vodka distributing center in Seattle and get their waste from making vodka. And that was our hand sanitizer.
Wow.
It was crazy. And got up to 74 clients, got up to 85. Today we're back up at 115.
Wow. That's quite amazing. And it's crazy to go, I mean, literally just restarting from, I mean, literally like less than when you bought the school. Like literally like half of when you bought the school.
Yeah. Now, there were some parents that had this one parent, and he is at Microsoft. He helped do the gaming, and he's like super smart, whatever.
Yeah.
And he has 3 children at the school, and this is hitting. And I call him and I said, I'm going to do half of the half. He goes, no, Linda, just continue to charge me full tuition. I'm making my full paycheck and I'm sitting home.
Wow.
So there was a couple parents that said, no, charge me full because I'm still here.
And you were able to, again, because you built that environment with the parents, with the teachers in this place where people felt like they belonged, like they were willing to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we finally, we were probably into this a year before we got the PPE money. So then we get this personal protection.
And again, you don't even need it at this point, right? Like you said, it's a year after. Like you needed it in that first few months. Like you don't need it a year after.
And then we got denied the first round, and the second round we got it. So that was, immediate. But then we didn't know if we had to pay it back. So it was a large amount, but we were like, do we have to pay interest on that? Are we going to have to pay that back? Are we going to have to pay taxes on it? So I didn't want to spend it all to zero, because how about if I had to pay taxes on it? Or how about if we had to pay it back with interest? Like, we didn't know. And in the beginning, the PPE, nobody, my husband would say, nobody needs to know that we applied and we got it, but eventually the whole list came out.
Yeah.
And you can see on the list now, today, the people that took advantage of it, right now I'm fighting for that the employee retention credit.
Yeah, for those people who actually don't know about what I think most business owners will know about what PPE is, but can you explain that to people, like what that is?
Yeah, so we had to buy personal protection equipment. So we had to buy the mask, the gloves, the hand sanitizer, all that. That was expenses that were above and beyond my regular just, stuff. Also, too, maybe I had to pay people a little bit more to come to work because they didn't want to come, and it was maybe hazard pay, So all that is extra above. So that's what that PPE was for, is to pay the government.
This was given by the government. This was a government loan that was like, hey, here's some money.
It was actually through your bank. You had to get it through the bank. So Chase got them. So the banks got it. They got the loan from the government or whatever, but it was through your bank.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, the day that we got it, we got a big chunk of change in my checking account.
Yeah.
So, but again, you didn't know. And then the next one, so Governor Inslee shut down our state for 2 weeks. And then he opened it up really, really slowly. And only essential workers were allowed to be out and about. And we were considered essential. I had to give a letter to my teachers because they were driving on the road and they got pulled over. They had to show the letter that they had to go to work. So now, during that time, they are working, and I needed them, and our society needed them, because they're watching other people's children that have to go to work and deliver your packages, and the doctors and the nurses. So the government finally said, okay, we're going to do employee retention credit, $26,000 per employee that you employed during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you apply each quarter of your taxes. Your taxes are in quarters when you have a business. I don't know all the stuff. My husband's better at this stuff than I am.
Mm.
But so we went to an accountant, and she applied for me, and I got allotted money and said, yes. I have not to this day seen one dime. The issue is there's a lot of fraud in it. And so now the IRS stopped it, and they're investigating each case. So it just is really like, I'll eventually get it. But like you said, I needed it 2 years ago to give people a pay raise so they could stay.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating.
Yeah. No.
But that's part of dealing with the government.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have to say when we talk about the government and my life and who I am, I'm a social worker at heart, and I'm a mom, and I'm a good Christian Catholic person.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the Montessori, which is very expensive, I would like everybody to have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, you can do scholarships and things like that, but you could apply to the government and get on this working connections for mothers and dads and people that are on welfare. So people that are working at McDonald's, or they're working at Wendy's, and they have children. They can't afford this childcare. So the government says, we'll help you. And it's called the Department of Youth and Family Services are going to pay for your childcare. However, in order to get their money from the government has to come in and, check out your place and make sure you're legit, right? Yeah. So they started this program called Early Achievers. So they have an agency, it's called the Early Achievers, and they're in charge of kind of seeing all these childcare centers and making sure they are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are, then we'll give you the money.
Yeah.
Now they're a month behind. So what happens is, as a child attends your school, you mark it on the calendar. Yes, they attended. That's $45 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but how many days did they attend? Maybe they only attended 10 days. Maybe they attended 21 days. So back before COVID, you had to put exactly how many days they attended. And when they attended, then the government paid it. So they have to pay it a month later, right?
Yeah.
That you don't know, But once COVID hit, government paid for all of it.
Really? So it was key you had those children that were part of that, because that's nice. That's really good.
Yeah. So the government was like, no, we'll continue to pay their tuition, even though, a lot of, their child's not attending.
Mm-hmm.
So that was huge. And so being a part of Early Achievers is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, it can contradict your Montessori philosophy. So one of the things in Montessori is I really only have one or two, like, let's take I should come up with a different thing, but I do the Mr. Potato. But now we have to be politically correct. So I don't know what we're going to call it. The potato heads.
Yeah.
Potato people. The they, them. So the lady that had the childcare center before, and I told this story in my tours. I told two stories in my tours about the center before and how I changed it. This potato head story is she had a box like this big, and inside of it were all the potato heads and all the parts. And there are about seven potato heads in there, and all the parts were in this box, this thing. So the children, it was on the shelf. But the children would pull it out and they would just dump the whole thing all over the floor. And the teachers were like, oh my God. And then who's picking that up for 2-year-olds, the 16-month-olds? I am the teacher. I mean, we could play the game, hey, let's clean up. But we all know we're cleaning all that up. So that's a lot of management for the teacher. So how can we're observing this? So we're observing these children and they're just dumping. And they don't really know what to do with these potato heads. They don't really get it. They just think it's fun to dump them all and the sound or whatever. What are they? What I'm just observing them. So Montessori, no, we only have 2 potato heads. And we put the potato head in a little bin. And then we have each of the parts in little bins. So we put all the ears in one bin. We put all the hands in one bin. We put all the feet in one bin. And then we label it. Mm-hmm. So everything has a place. And then we put it on a tray. And it's pretty. And it's organized. And I can see it. Now I take that out and I set it down and I play with it. Now when I'm done with it, I put it back on the shelf. And now the next child knows that they can go get it. So there's no grabbing and pulling and ripping and I know first, that's fine. No, there's none of that. If the child is working with it and it's on the tray, it's on the table, that's their work. Now when they're done, they put it back. Now it's your turn. You can go ahead and take it. So that's one of the stories I tell. The other one is when I first bought the school, there was a white leather couch in a 2-year-old classroom. It was a classroom that was right when you drive in. The school had these big windows. My school had these big windows and then the parking. So parents would park and you can look in. You can see the whole classroom going. It was like a fishbowl. Yeah. Which that bothered me too, because I felt like anybody could look in. So I put a film on the windows where we could see out, but nobody could see in.
Yeah, which was also big for people on the street. Because I know you said at one point, homeless people, trying to get into the school and stuff like that.
Yeah, you have a streaker. You want to be careful. So I pull in, and every day I pull in, there's the teacher, and she's taking these children and she's manhandling them off the couch and putting them down, and she's disciplining them, and don't jump on the couch and don't crawl on the couch. And I walked in the classroom and I said, Talisha, what is going on? She goes, I hate this couch. It's just, the children, they jump on it and then I'm afraid they're going to fall and hit their head. I'm like, then we're going to get rid of it. Bye-bye couch. Yeah. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, get rid of it. Then we don't have the problem. Then we're going to.
We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. It's that easy.
Yeah, I was thinking we could probably. Obviously, one of the things, actually, real quick question about back to Montessori and stuff like that. So there's a lot of curriculums out there that a lot of these owners get into, whether you're in home or whatever. A lot of them cost a lot of money to invest into them. Some of them have fees you have to pay monthly and stuff like that. What has been your experience for those people who are actually interested in Montessori? What has been your experience with that and how that's working? Are there fees with it? Is it really just like that certificate that you got and got educated for, or how did that work?
Okay. So the Montessori, you're right. There are these lot of curriculums. One of them is teaching strategies, has this thing, and it's like $14,000. Yeah. Now it is expensive, the Montessori, but what you have to do is find your local, like whoever trains the Montessori teachers. So in our area, there's where I got trained because I went and got my Montessori certificate. It's a Northwest Montessori, and her name is Mary, and she's been there for 25 years, and she's world renowned, and she has national accreditation Montessori. I mean, she's the real deal.
Yeah.
Right? She's got national accreditation. She's AMS certified, American Montessori Society. You're looking for, because anybody can call themselves a Montessori. You just have to have a pink tower and there's no standard. So, but if you belong to these societies like AMS, then they have standards you have to have.
Yeah.
So you got to find a place that is very reputable, and then you get educated there, and then they have trainings. And I would pay for my teachers to have a day off Fridays, because it was Fridays and Saturdays, and I'd pay them to go to the training. So that's expensive.
Yeah.
But once they get that initial training, they're bringing it back, and it's a win-win. It's a win for me because they're trained, and it's a win for the children and the parents, because now I can tout a Montessori, right?
Yeah.
So you can either, pay this place to send you workbooks that teachers do, but see, Montessori, we don't have workbooks. We have the actual materials. So,
it's really important that you get educated as the owner, because when you're giving these tours, if you're not educated on this stuff, whether you're creative play, whether you're Montessori or whatever, you got to be able to convey what it is that you're doing at your center and what makes you guys different. And so if you're not educated, then it's going to make it even harder. If your teachers aren't educated, and they're not actually going to be implementing the things that you want them to be implementing.
Right. And part of it is like educating the teachers, like I said earlier, with the good job. I'm like, we don't do a good job, because how would you feel if I, did a performance review on you and I was like, oh, well, Will, you did such a good job on this interview, versus I really like the way that you kept on asking me questions and kept on me on task. And then we'd go back. If I got, sideways, you'd come back. How does that feel? Versus that was a really good interview.
Yeah.
And good job is I am a reflection of a lot of people get this artwork. So if a child shows you their artwork, they're like, what do you think of my picture? You're like, I hate it, or it's amazing. But that's you judging their work. So we don't do that. And they know that. And it's the same thing with their behavior. So this one, if they said, oh, what about my artwork? What do you think of my artwork? I'd say, wow, okay. What colors did you use? Or what do you think of it? And like little girls would come to me like, Miss Linda, my dress. Don't you love my dress? I'm like, do you like your dress? And they'd be like, yeah. And then I'm like, that's all that matters. That you like your dress. That you like your work. That you did that. Doesn't matter what I think. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. The Montessori education. I guess so now, you've been running the center for 7 years. You just gotta find
your niche, whether it's Reggio or Montessori or play-based, and you have to believe in it. I mean, I really believe in it, obviously. You could tell. And that parents, when I did the tours too, they were like, you can tell you love what you do. Because my energy, I have the energy. My voice is influctuating. I'm not.
And at least the only thing I will have to say for people out there thinking about like which curriculum to go into, when it comes to the marketing side of things, there's not a lot of parents who are looking at some of these niche things like Reggio, creative play, and stuff like that. But Montessori is something that actually a lot of parents know, and you'll see that when parents are looking for daycare centers, like kind of like Christian childcare and stuff like that. Like parents will actually go out and search for that. Parents will go out and search for Montessori. Some of these lesser known ones, they're lesser known. Maybe they're known within the daycare community and within the childcare community, but a lot of parents don't know about them. A lot of parents have actually heard
or like you were saying, like the bilingual.
Yeah,
like I think you're doing websites for like Spanish immersion or Spanish, like, oh, I want my child to learn Spanish. Or I know we have a lot of Indian population, and they actually want the children to experience the American food because they don't cook American at home. Like they're like, we want our child to be exposed to all that. Yeah.
It's good. That's something I would say, like when you're picking like that niche and kind of almost like if you're not at that stage yet, like where you're not, you haven't already picked your thing, but if I would think about it a little bit and kind of decide your niche a little bit, almost strategically, because
you're not going to be, and there within my 5 miles of my school, there's 5 other schools. Like what's one of the things? Oh, we go outside a lot. So some parents were like, "Oh, I don't want my child to get dirty, and I don't like that you don't have fake grass. You have these wood chips, and she's gonna put that in her mouth, and I don't like that." Well, that's my school. Like
Yeah.
that's what we have. If you want fake grass and pristine, then that's probably down the street. But
Yeah.
we go outside, we get dirty, we get muddy,
Yeah.
and if you don't want your child that, then we're probably not a fit.
And that's going to speak to another parent. Like another parent's going to hear that and be like, "Oh my gosh, like I love the outdoors. We live in the Northwest. We want to go outside. We want our kid to get money. We want our kid to do these things. We want our kid to get a little bruise every once in a while." Like,
Right.
and that's going to speak to that parent. And so it's important to like figure out that and just convey that in those tours, and to just let them know like what you're about, and then they can kind of match themselves with that, and they can make their own decision.
Right. And also too, you're right, because then once they say yes, and now they're unhappy 2 weeks. So yes, you're right. You really want to present yourself in a way that after 2 weeks or a month they're at your school, they're not going to be like, "This isn't what I thought it was going to be," or,
Exactly. And you're going to get those anyways, but, at least you can say you did your part, in making that happen. And, really
and then a lot of referrals.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of referrals. And I noticed that most of my clients live within like 5 miles of my school.
Yeah. And
that's where the flyers. That's where the flyer. That's where the flyer.
Yeah. Ungodly distances. I would say.
And then I think also too, you guys do this web page. I think a lot of people speak different languages. They're busy making phone calls, and then nobody picking up the phone. How many child care centers did you call and you get the answer machine? They don't call you back. They call the next day. Email is right now. Email's hot. You're at work, you can send an email to me and schedule a tour or see my website, and you guys present a lot of that. And then on there's a book a tour. They don't have to talk to anybody. We book it right there.
Well, we've noticed too is a lot of childcare centers, they close around like 6 o'clock. Well, guess what? That's when parents get off work, and that's when they're going online. They're looking at these childcare centers. A lot of times people get inquiries on the weekends or when they're closed. And if you don't have those working contact forms, or if you don't have that way for them to schedule a tour, and they can't call the school, like where do I go? Like, what do I do?
Right.
So it's important.
And I noticed I have to set my prices every year. So every year I kind of have right around May, June, I try to call childcare that are in my area within that 5 miles, my competition, and find out what they charge. Right. Half the time I call, nobody answers.
Yeah.
Half the time I call, I can't understand the person who answered the phone, their accent, or I can't.
Because a lot of times it's just a lot of times it's just some teacher in a classroom. Like they hear the phone ringing, they walk out, they pick it up. They don't know. They barely know what's going on inside their classroom, let alone what's happening in the 5-year-old classroom or the infant room.
And the third thing that happens is they can't give me any information because they're on the ground, but they're corporate office. So you get transferred to a 1-800 number.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm not talking to the school that's in Kirkland. I'm talking to this 1-800 number that's in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Then they're answering the questions of like, and you're like, "Oh, how much is tuition?" And they're like, "What part of the country are you looking at?" And you're like, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah. Which one of the 1,500 locations we own are you looking at?
Exactly. So, and then, so that's the web page and your guys' work that you do, and that saves us a lot of time on the phone and scheduling these. And then the other thing I love is there's a text to me and there's a text to the parents to remind.
Because you guys have a scheduled tour set up on your site to where it'll notify the person who's giving the tour and then also the parent, like, "Hey, your tour's tomorrow." Because like that's something that we noticed. There's a lot of parents, like, you talk to them through email, they call on the phone, and they forget. Like I actually forgot about today. I forgot about our meeting today because I didn't set up a scheduler with us. I just put a meeting in our thing, and then you text me like, "Hey, Will, are we meeting today?"
I set an alarm on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right, with the scheduler that we have set up for you, like the parent and you are getting notifications, and then that way the parent knows to show up on time, and then also you know to be there to give the tour. And
the other thing is the website I think is really important, especially today and today's. And I mean, I think even if you're in a small town or if you're in, obviously we're in Seattle, it's techie, but it saves so much money on paper. So when a parent wants my parent handbook, they're on my website, and I don't have to print it out. I don't have to hand it out. And then all the onboarding, it's all, on the web. It saves so much time, and I can't read their handwriting. Like they fill out something and I can't read their handwriting. And now the number got transposed by the time I put the number into my, So I mean, if you don't have a website, I think you're not legit.
Yeah. And I think a
I
lot
think
of parents feel that way too.
something simple. I mean, web design, you guys have different prices. You can do different things. You don't have to be, it doesn't have, you can do as simple as you want, spend as little, they have packages, like different packages. So, and the other thing that you've done for me, Will Gamraw and Tacoma Web Design, is my reviews.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And it's not that some parents, I got upset when I first started the company and I didn't have you guys. I would get Yelp reviews. I'd be bawling my eyes out. And the person was lying. Like, I'm like, this person didn't even come to my school, or that wasn't what happened. And I didn't know how to respond. And I was so emotional about it. And I would get defensive, and that's not what you want to do. And I didn't know how to respond to them. And then I wouldn't respond because I was like, I don't know how to respond. So I just wouldn't respond. And it was another job for me to do. And I felt that they were important. When I talked to parents, a lot of them were like, yeah, they take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I've had tours, and then they ask me questions. They're like, oh, you have this Yelp review that says you're all about the money, and or whatever. So that was one thing you really helped me with, because I was too close to it, and you really helped answer.
Well, it's hard as an owner, because you're right. Like, you're just so in the weeds of it, and when you get this bad review after you've just put your heart and soul into something, and then this person just leaves a bad review, like, if you respond to that, you're gonna leave a pretty sassy response or a pretty bad response, because you're just so entangled with it. Well, versus when you let us respond to it, we kind of have an outside opinion, kind of taking a third. And the thing is also, the thing that people don't understand, like, you, for example, have a ton of really, really nice reviews. But when parents go on that Google review thing, they're instantly sorting by lowest. Like, everyone who clicks on a thing that they really care about, they go, what's the lowest reviews? Let me read some of these trash comments. And the owner's responses to that makes a world of difference. If you give a bad response, or you're not responding, it rubs someone the wrong way. Because, again, you're not responding to make the situation better with that person. Like, they left a bad review, because they left a bad review. They're probably done with you. They don't really care about you anymore. It's for those future parents that are then going to read that. And it's nice because Google gives you that opportunity to be the last person to have something to say. Like, a parent can leave a review, but you get that last say. Like, they can't respond to your review. There's no big chain going on. You get the last say there. So you can make sure you really get your point across and show what actually happened in that situation.
And some of the things, like some of the reviews, it's a bad review. I remember the one in the beginning, it was a bad review. Is like, oh, my kid threw up and got sick, and they called me and I had to come pick him up. I'm like, yeah. Hello, and in a way that was kind of a good review for me, because it's like, we want to make sure that the children, if we have some sickness going around, it's going to catch like wildfire. You got to take your child home in 24-hour, stay home.
And someone saw that in 2022 and was like, oh, wow, they actually take sickness and illness seriously, which is good.
Right. So maybe that was a 1, but then I'm reading that, I'm like, okay, that person's an idiot. Of course you have to pick your child up if they're, throwing up and have diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So some of them are self-evident, but then some of them it hurts.
Yeah.
But you guys really helped me with that. I think that was the other.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't have a web page and then somebody helping you with those reviews, and when you guys help me with those reviews, I don't have to pay for an ad, because I get it at the top of the list because of my you have all these, I don't know, you guys know all that, but SEOs and all, they're really good at it. You guys are good at what you do. I don't have to,
Yeah. Well, another thing that we've realized, again, just like talking with owners and stuff like that, and obviously, my time working is like, as an owner, you have so much stuff to worry about. The last thing that you ever have time for is marketing for your business. I mean, it's almost impossible to find time for it. And therefore, it's better just to give it to someone else and let them handle it, because you're gonna save yourself a ton of time, a ton of headache, and you're not gonna be stressing out over it, and it's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. Because like, you already have staff, you have to deal with staff, you have to deal with parents, you have to deal with licensing, you have to deal with pricing, you have to deal with books. Like, literally, you're running this entire business by yourself, and like for you 23 employees. I mean, that's that's not nothing.
A lot of people wouldn't do what I did.
Yeah.
A lot of people would hire, but then I'm the owner, I'm the director. So any profit I get that I could do myself, that's more money in my pocket.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I probably took on more than maybe I can, but then you got to find out what you're good at, and the web and those reviews. I'm not good at that. Like I tried in the beginning, because I inherited the website from a lady, and I did take a few classes, I looked and I figured, and I hired a guy out of Craigslist, But he didn't, he didn't really wasn't on top of it,
Mhm.
like you guys are, really. And the reason why I know he wasn't on top of it is a lot of parents would say, "Oh, that's old on there. Or that you have old forms," or, and the reviews. He didn't
Yeah,
help me with the reviews. So.
exactly. Yeah. Well, honestly, it was it. I know we're getting a little bit close to our end of our time here, but we've kind of talked about. I mean, we've gone from your story from like buying the center in the very beginning, where you had like 60 kids, all the way to you, figuring out staffing, figure out your Montessori method, getting teachers trained up, getting your first, 115 clients, which is amazing, and then COVID hitting, going all the way back down to 30 clients, and then now you're back to where you started, and been a journey. I'm kind of curious, like for anyone who's looking like and getting this now, like what recommendations would you give to them? Like, is there any like key takeaways on your 7 year journey that you kind of just give to someone?
Um, I think if you love children and you like education, um, it's there's nothing better than those children to see them every day
Mm-hmm.
and see them grow. And I have bad days. You have bad days at work, with staffing, and there could be some drama. But at the end of the day, I go home and I can't wait to go back to school to see little Johnny and how they're doing, and Susie. And um, Jana is my, right hand, left hand, foot. And yesterday or the other day, she had to call 911. A 16-month-old. She's perky as all get out personality. And she woke up from a nap and she was fine. She had snack and then she kind of like fainted.
Mm-hmm.
And the other little girl tripped over her. And the teacher was like, "That's weird." So they went over and they picked her up and she was white. And her lips were starting to turn blue. So they took her to the office. Jana called mom and then she called 911. Mom didn't answer. And so she called 911. By the time the paramedics got there, the child color had started coming back. But the paramedics really felt that she should go to Children's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
By this time, they got a hold of mom. Mom was in Seattle. Children's Hospital's in Seattle. So the paramedics said they would take her to Children's. Jana went in the ambulance with the child
Mm-hmm.
and had her cell phone. And the mom called. Jana says, "I'm in the ambulance with your daughter. We're going to Children's." It happened to me before too, when I first started, and it was Talisha, and the child was 2, and it was having an allergic reaction to something. We called the parents, nobody answered. We called the paramedics, they came. They sat in my center for an hour. No parents, no grandparents, nobody called. So the paramedics said, "We got to go, and we have to take the child with us." I said, "Talisha, you're going with this child to the emergency room," because Talisha is a teacher, and the teacher and the child knew each other. I didn't know the child. I mean, the child knew me, but we weren't close. So Talisha went, and I took over her classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So though it's an amazing, I love the children. I love the education, and I love seeing them and them growing. And I love exposing parents and staff to that Montessori way.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you talking about,
Thank
Montessori
you.
stuff.
I really appreciate you guys and all the work you do with my web page. Really, it's seamless, and and you're very easy to get a hold of. That's the other thing with me too. I'm on the phone. If a parent needs to call me, there's my cell phone. I'm there. Same with you guys. I mean, if I have a problem, my forms are off, or I need you to put a form on, or something happened, you're right there. Your immediate response. I can get a hold of you. It's not a 1-800 number. Can I have your account? Can I have your account number and your social security? And we need to verify your address and who you are. You're like, I can't.
Yeah.
So you guys are there, just like me. If you're in this people business, you got to be there. You got to be, I'll hold, accountable.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, as you said, running a daycare center is stressful, and even though we can't be there in person to be your right and left hand person, we try to be there virtually and do everything that we can to help and support you guys. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, before everyone goes, I just wanted to say one more time, thank you, Linda, so much for hopping on call with us and let me ask you all those questions and sharing your story and kind of getting that out there. And then also thank you for anyone who listened to the end. Make sure to show Linda some love down below in the comments, and maybe we can have her back on and do more of a Q&A and ask her some more nitty-gritty details about her center. But yeah, all right, thank you so much. See you guys later.